So here's some local news I would not have expected to go viral. But interestingly, it most certainly did go viral. So in a state Senate meeting, I believe in the state of Virginia, Winsome Sears, who is, I believe, a Republican, was, speaking to a male member of the legislature, and she referred to him as sir. And all hell broke loose, it seems. Now, of course, because this is in the Senate, they had relatively subdued reactions, but you could tell that the spirit in the building was stirred. And this whole situation went viral on Twitter. Now, one thing I noticed was that no one on Twitter and no one on YouTube went uploaded the entire situation with context. So I decided that I would react to basically the entire thing. And I do know for those of you guys who are viewing this live, this is going to seem slow and tedious because there are going to be some silent moments in the stream. But check this out because it's going to have all the context. And not only that, there's going to be a moment that did not go viral at all. And basically everyone ignored. So enjoy. Here is the clip of Winsome Sears misgendering someone, as the gender ideology folks would say.
Ayes 27, noes 13.
Ayes 27, noes 13. The bill passes.
On page 14, House Bill 592.
Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that HB 592 pass, and speaking to that motion.
The senator may continue.
Thank you, Madam President. This bill just simply directs that the Department of Health's emergency regulations that were put into place related to prescription drug price transparencies remain in effect until the final regulations are promulgated, and there is a that this went into effect retroactively beginning January 1st, 2024. It simply states that the emergency regulations will remain in place until as needed. And with that, I move that we pass the bill.
For what purpose does the senator from Prince William rise?
Madam President, rise for parliamentary inquiry.
The senator may state it.
Madam President, how many votes would it take to pass this bill with the emergency clause?
That would be 4/5, Senator.
And what would be the exact number for that, Madam President?
Yes, sir. That would be 32.
Now I'm kind of curious to see what the woman in the teal sweater there was trying to tell Winsome. It's kind of hard to tell.
The question is.
But yeah, then he kind of storms out. I guess because of my my webcam, you can't really see. But yeah, he kind of storms out there.
Shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion
let me
will
rewind
record
so you
their
guys can
votes aye.
see.
Those opposed, no. Are the
Yeah,
The
he
question
storms
is,
out there.
Shall the bill pass? Those in favor of that motion will record their votes aye. Those opposed, no. Are the senators ready to vote? Have all the senators voted? Does any senator desire to change their vote? The clerk will close the roll.
So they voted, and one would think based on that that was pretty much it. However, that was not it, because they ended up going for a 5-minute recess after Winsome Sears had trouble getting some people to respond to her, because she was kind of like basically running the thing. She was trying to get people to respond, move forward to the next sort of business, but then someone asked for a 5-minute recess. That 5-minute recess was granted. And when the 5-minute recess was over, this is what transpired.
Madam Clerk.
House Bill 964.
Chair again recognizes Senator Hashmi, the senator from Chesterfield.
I did find it interesting when going through this video for the first time that she did seem stressed in this segment. There are basically 3 segments. This is the second one. It did seem like she was relatively stressed here, which I found interesting.
For what purpose does The senator is at ease.
So, I don't have the biggest grasp on all of the procedures of state senates, but I got the impression that basically she was like, let's take a break. Not necessarily an official one, but it's like we're going to take a pause on all the items on our agenda. Now, after what looks like a 2-minute pause, this is what happens, and this is the final segment of the video that I'm going to show.
To me, that I said something that upset Senator Rome. Let it be known, I am not here to upset anyone. I am here to do the job that the people of Virginia have called me to do, and that is to treat everyone with respect and dignity. I myself have at times not been afforded that same respect and dignity. But in this body, and as long as I am president of the Senate, and by the grace of God, I will be treated with respect and dignity, and I will treat everyone else with respect and dignity. I have called people not by their names, but by everyone else's names. Indeed, I have just put the Senate at ease in the name of the House. It is never my intention to make anyone offended, and I hope that others would consider that they would try not to offend me as well. We are all equal under the law. And so, I apologize, I apologize, I apologize. And I would hope that everyone would understand there is no intent to offend, but that we will also give each other the ability to forgive each other. I have seen us conduct ourselves in ways that we would not expect of our own children or nieces or nephews. And so I would hope that we take this opportunity to be kind to each other, to be gracious to each other, to be about the people's business. That is what I hope. And I join you in serving the people of this great Commonwealth. I join you in being a citizen of this great country. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
So I decided to let a lot of that run, mostly just because that's content that's not available on YouTube. Also, a lot of people don't have all the full context. A lot of people don't know that Winsome actually apologized for misgendering. What is this? Danica Noam, I think. Danica Noam. Danica Rome. Sorry, Danica Rome. For misgendering Danica Rome. Most people don't know that she apologized for doing that. The whole situation, I think, was rather interesting. From what I can gather, I did some quick Google searches of Winsome Sears. She is very strongly against kind of like wokeism. If you guys want to pretend that woke isn't a thing, then against Marxism and against progressivism, against gender ideology. She's not a big fan of these new extremist movements. And she's spoken, very aggressively against them. Not necessarily in a mean way, but she is very firm. So for her to, misgender Rome isn't entirely shocking. What was surprising to me, though, is that she was surprised. Now, maybe she was worried that clip would go viral or whatever, and that she would get pressure and that she would get hate, and that might threaten her seat in some way. Certainly a possibility. She did seem relatively stressed in that second segment that I played. But I think that's kind of a shame that she, kind of felt pressured to back down on what she said, because she didn't necessarily do anything wrong, right? Danica Rome is a man. Is a dude, right? So for her to, say sir was completely fine, and for her to back down and say, well, I shouldn't have said that. Well, by doing that, you are You're condoning lying, unfortunately. And as a Christian, my perspective is that we should not lie to people, even if that might make them feel better. That's just not the right thing to do. And there are plenty of Bible verses that I could go to talking about why it's bad to lie. I do think that this verse actually comes across as relatively relevant because, gender ideology is becoming very pervasive, right? It's something that is very prominent in our society now. And, this passage just feels timely. This is from Ephesians chapter 4. The general context here is that it's talking about what the apostles were called to do, but I think this applies to all Christians, honestly. It says here in verse 11, starting in verse 11, and he himself gave some to be apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, and some pastors and teachers for the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, till we all come to the unity of the faith and the knowledge of the Son of God, to a perfect man, to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, that we should no longer be children tossed to and fro and carried about with every wind of doctrine by the trickery of men and the cunning craftiness of deceitful plotting, but speaking the truth in love may grow up in all things into him who is the head, Christ, from whom the whole body, joined and knit together by what every joint supplies, according to the effective working by which every part does its share, causes growth of the body for the edifying of itself in love. Now, for those of you who do not understand Christianese, basically what that passage is saying is that as Christians, one of our main goals is not just for ourselves, but to encourage other people to grow in understanding of the gospel, growing in their understanding of who God is, and to, become better people, basically. Not being willing to just go along with the flow with what everybody else is saying, listening to what other people are telling you to do or telling you to believe or telling you to affirm because they could be lying, but instead, plant yourself and root yourself and ground yourself in the truth of the scriptures. And it can be very hard to do so in the face of gender ideology, in the face of cancel culture, in the face of progressivism. Add whatever political thing you want to add, right? Political movement, even right-wing political movements, right? We've got the whole craze of Christian nationalism going on, which I might talk about later. That's not necessarily scriptural in my opinion. But instead of, going along with whatever these cultural movements are saying, instead we should be rooting ourselves in the scriptures. And it can be very hard, right? Winsome Sears found it hard, right? She started quaking in her boots and then ended up apologizing for what she said. That's not the way that we should be as Christians. A few disapproving looks in a chamber and all of a sudden we change our tune. No, that's not what we're called to do as Christians. It's not what we're called to do. So, I understand, right? Say certain things, say the truth, and it can hurt some feelings. Like that the truth has a propensity to do that sometimes. But in all honesty, like, what's better, to get the approval of a few people? And then people start clapping, go, yay, woo! Or people decide to spare you for the day and not cancel you today? Or is it to pursue your God rightly, pursue truth, and do what you can to grow as a human being and grow as a person and be honest with the people around you? I guess that's a question you have to answer for yourself.